Meet Claudia Mercado, a purpose-driven entrepreneur, passionate public servant, and fierce advocate for equity. Born in Mexico and raised in Oakland, Claudia's journey is rooted in resilience and community. She brings over a decade of experience in public health and consumer safety, including 11 years of service on the Osteopathic Medical Board of California. And now she's raising the bar once again on the California Board of Pharmacy. Claudia is the founder of not one, but two innovative businesses, Vervida, a science-backed mineral supplement company, and Cali Bueno, a cannabis lifestyle brand. Whether she's building businesses or shaping policy, Claudia leads with integrity, intuition, and initiative, always uplifting voices often left out of the conversation. Today, she's here to talk about how mentorship, showing up authentically, and why it's time for more Latinas to claim their seat at the table. This is Claudia Mercado, and this is her story.
Hi, Claudia. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Hola, Fernanda. Buenas tardes. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Well, I would love to just start with you introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about where you work, where you're based, and your background as a business leader. How has that influenced your leadership style?
Well, I am based in Oakland, California, and I've been privileged to be here since I was really young. I was born in Mexico in Zacatecas, and my family immigrated to Oakland, this beautiful city with over 300 days of sunshine. So life is pretty good right now. I've been focusing on running my businesses, and now, talking to you, I'm here to help you promote more Latinas in boards and commissions.
Thank you so much. I know you're currently on the board of pharmacy. Could you tell us kind of how you got there?
Well, it really started with hope and the leadership there that encouraged me to consider a state appointment. This was back in 2012, and I took the action and the initiative. And out of that, I was appointed to the Osteopathic Medical Board for 11 years, which was a great experience. It was several reappointments. And I think part of that reason is because there's such a huge gap in our state for Latina leaders. So knowing that, and that continues to be an issue, after I turned off the Osteopathic Medical Board, I took the initiative again and took action to call the state and see if I can reappoint myself. Well, not technically, but pretty much offer my services as a public servant.
That's amazing. What was your transition from that one medical board to now the board of pharmacy? Did you receive any mentorship along the way?
I think the biggest thing for me between the transition was, people encouraging me to still be active as a board member. After I turned out, it was over a decade serving as a public board member. And what really got me interested in serving again was individuals in my life. One of them in particular, Carlos Figueroa, he's 89, Latino, Air Force veteran. And we were driving to Sacramento, and he said, Mija, I think you should really, consider staying active with the state. You're a great leader. You take initiative. You have resiliency, and they need leaders like you. Being of service is not for the faint of heart, but knowing that you have mentors that are going to be supporting you along the way, and that are telling you that this is very important, not only for my personal development, but also for the well-being of the state.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you got that nudge because you're doing amazing work there.
Thank you, Fernanda.
You shared a story with me about how you advocated for yourself. Would you mind kind of diving into that?
Well, again, it goes back into having people in your life that are your cheerleaders and are really telling you and reinforcing the fact that we matter, and, our voice matters, our presence matters. So when I had the idea, it all started with an idea, I took initiative, and I actually found a letter that I got from the Senate Rules Committee congratulating me for one of the appointments. And I always save my diplomas in my files or my badges of honor. So I said, let me not Google it. Let me find that letter and see who sent me that letter. So I called them back, and I said, hey, I have this letter from such and such year. I was a previously appointed member of the Osteopathic Medical Board. I would like to be of service again. And I was very transparent when I called initially. I said, given the turmoil in our country, I really feel that it's up to us to really take, again, action. And they were really surprised to hear from me.
Oh, why?
Yeah. Well, they said that normally people don't call to get reappointed, that they actually have a hard time or a challenging time filling positions. So that was really cool to see how they were so receptive and so thankful.
Yeah.
And also surprised at the same time that, somebody is taking the initiative. Like, I think in their eyes, they kind of hoped this was the process other people took. And as a small group within that appointment committee, they were enthusiastic to know that they're also their work matters, that there is people coming to the table asking to be of service.
I love that story. I think so many times it's hard for us to advocate for ourselves. And sometimes we do need a mentor or a resource to tell us, we can do this. And I see that a lot with the women we work with the Latina Appointments Collaborative. Part of what we do is to provide that mentorship, that advocacy for our women who maybe aren't sure that they're ready, but we know they are. We know that they have all the capabilities to be there and to serve. So thank you so much. That's awesome.
And one more thing I think, important was that I didn't send an email. I called them. I think, phone calls are one of the most underrated tools we have.
Yeah.
Society, because I think there's something special to people's voices. And when you're able to connect with somebody and hear a more in-depth, interest that comes really from within through the voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I called them, I was really passionate. And that also set a whole different level of chain reactions. It created this enthusiasm on their end to follow up. It created this enthusiasm on my end to follow up. So through that process, we were really building a small relationship. Through that process of us coming together and say, hey, let's get you appointed. You do your job, I do my job. And within a month and a half, I think the appointment came through. So I think coming as your authentic self, showing enthusiasm, and making people feel good when you call them.
Definitely. I love that. I think you're right. It's that passion, right? It really speaks for itself. And I see it with you all the time. Every time we talk and you share what you're doing on these boards, I can see it that you're really there. This is your purpose. And it's so meaningful.
It is. I take it very seriously.
I love that. That is awesome. Do you have any advice for any women who maybe they're considering being on a board, but maybe something's holding them back? They're not really sure how to go through this process or how to take a first step.
Well, I would say that, intuition is real. That's, I think, our superpower as women.
I love that.
And I think tapping into the intuition is something that we should really take more seriously and really take it as a superpower. So I think for me, it's always been about following my intuition and my voice. It took me 5 years to apply to Hope. I literally printed the application for 5 years straight. And on the 5th year, I said, I'm ready. So I think for those women that are looking to get into this, I think the fact that they're thinking about it is a great start. It's like planting a seed. Sometimes it takes a year or 2 years for you to get a flower or fruit, 3 years, right? Same with us, let's put that thought into our heads. Let's cultivate it every day with positive reinforcements. And then let's see ourselves appointed to those positions. So it's a process of you actually playing it in your head before it happens and then striking when you're ready.
Yeah.
When you feel like you're confident enough to step in. And I say confident enough because it does take you planning and it does take you being mentally prepared. But even going through the process, it might not seem like the right moment. And through the process, you might find out that it is.
Yeah.
So it's also important to take action and be open for those opportunities to really reflect themselves, and then for you to make the choice when the opportunity arises.
Yeah, I think that's so special. I like how you framed that the first step isn't filling out that application. The first step really goes back to thinking, wow, this is something I can do for myself, that I'm ready, I'm capable. That is really great framing to think about it that way. And some women, they're already in that first step, right? If you're watching this video, if you're on our webpage, even if you see a post and you're like, that could be me. It could be you.
That is you.
Yeah, that is you. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
That is them,
Mm-hmm.
It all starts with the thought. The fact that they took the time to be here with us, right? And have this message arrive in their lives, it means they're ready.
Yeah, that's great. And then once you were on a board, so you've been on the osteopathic board and now you're on the board of pharmacy. Once you got on a board, going back, you mentioned 11 years. How was that? How were you able to learn about the top issues that the board was talking about? How was the meeting structure? Was there some kind of onboarding or orientation process for you?
Yeah, so the Osteopathic Medical Board is under the Department of Consumer Affairs, so is the Board of Pharmacy. So we do have agency under the state that does the onboarding. I mean, we're now technically employees of the state. So there's some paperwork there.
Okay.
And there's also onboarding for, state employees that are required.
Okay.
For the board itself, though, it really comes with the experience. I mean, like, you just have to show up to every meeting and then be able to ask a lot of questions. So not only do you have to be interested in the job, but you have to be really curious
Is right.
to learn really fast. The osteopathic board, I think my first meeting, they didn't even think I was a board member.
Oh my
I was
goodness.
so young and I just looked a little lost. But now it's different, right? Now I show with more confidence, and I know how the game, I call it the game, because, with the osteopathic medical board, that board operates a certain way, and we license X amount of licensees. The board of pharmacy is a lot bigger. The budget is bigger. The staff is bigger. The number of licensees is bigger. So the way they work, the structure a little bit differently. But I would say the best way to learn is to reach out to the department, which the board is under, so the Department of Consumer Affairs. And they have a lot of resources where you can, apart from the training where they can give you guidance, also the boards have access to attorneys, sometimes on staff, other times to the DCA. So they're a great resource for you to check in on legislation or how the board operates, the codes of ethics and business.
So it's a little bit of homework.
Yeah, it's fun
A little bit of
homework.
homework.
Yeah, you do your homework and then you get A's.
That's a great analogy. When you were part of these boards and you continue to be part of the
Mhm.
boards, is there any special skill or experience that you think really helped you navigate that? You mentioned being a business owner.
Yes.
Did those skills translate?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a business owner, I currently run Bervida, which is a essential mineral company, supplements, and Cali Bueno, lifestyle cannabis brand. And I think just by being an entrepreneur and a founder, I mean, you have to have so much resiliency, and you have to be really aware of what's going on around you and really fall in love with your customers, right? I'm in the products in some services, but I think that relates very well for me for the state, because my role is to protect the consumers, protect the public. So as a business owner, I take that to heart. Everything I do in my business has to be ethical, has to be transparent, and for the good of the customer. Same with these boards, we're really there to protect the public, all 42 million or 40 plus million Californians. So we have a big responsibility for us to do the right thing. And I think for me, the biggest thing was common sense. Just having some common sense. I'm a public board member. I represent the public. And then also, obviously, like I said, being curious, being willing to study and learn all the ins and outs.
Yeah.
Because your seat at the table affects millions of people.
Right.
We're not appointed by the constituents, but the constituents, in this case, like the Senate appointed me to represent them. So I take that to heart. So the biggest thing is common sense, and then just being passionate and knowing that you play a crucial role.
And you're busy, right? As a business owner, how'd you find managing the time? How's that work been for you?
I think you can always make time for things that are passionate, that you find passion in. For me, going to the board meetings has been really actually exciting, because I get to leave the Bay Area, go to Sacramento, have one-on-ones with these board members and with the public. So that's really exciting for me. And I get to see, as a business owner, what's happening out in my local area. And then in terms of getting my work done for the board on the weekends or sometimes at night, a few hours. So you just have to plan ahead.
Yeah. Some of that time management skills.
Yeah. And just know that it's a long-term commitment. Once you kind of figure out how it works in your life, you're going to be doing this for the next 4 years or 11 years.
Yep.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. But yeah, you get the rhythm down. And like I said, the DCA and these boards, the staff is really knowledgeable. So what makes it really fun and exciting too is that, if you ever need any help, like they're there to help you.
Yeah.
So that's also really cool.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love that. I think there's this theme, right, where people want you to succeed. People from the Senate Rules Committee appointments team who's, helping you navigate that. And then once you're on their orientation team, your fellow board members, that I feel like that's what I've been hearing from you.
The executive director, the staff. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you've been on 2 boards now. What do you think have been the most rewarding experience for you? And if you were starting over, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, I had a perfect attendance for the osteopathic medical board.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really proud of that. I didn't think I didn't make it a goal actually. After I trimmed out, I reflected. I was like, oh my god, I this is awesome. I made every board meeting. I'm the only one.
You were working for that, eh?
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't even know it. So I think I didn't know I was working that hard when I started, but because I was so enthusiastic, and now with the board forming, it's a bigger board, bigger budget, a little bit more work, structured differently. Um, So I'm learning to adapt myself, like every board is a new challenge. We don't know everything, so it's our job to go find out the answers. And if we don't know, it's okay to ask. We don't or say we don't know. I need help.
Yeah. How do you do that? So if you see something and you're not sure the answer, how do you go about finding those resources?
Well, I think just being it's okay to be vulnerable, and I've been vulnerable in meetings. I mean, like, our board meetings are recorded and we have public attending. So obviously you prepare for the meetings, but sometimes if there's people speaking, sometimes the conversations you might not understand because for example, I'm not a pharmacist, but if I find myself in a situation where we're talking about a very critical issue and I don't understand, I have to be able to raise my hand and say, hey, I need more clarification in order for my voice to count and for me to, make a sound judgment. So I always take the time to ask a lot of questions, clarify my thinking before I speak, and or clarify my data before I make a decision.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Okay, those are really good tips. I love that. And I think, that translates to any part of our life, right? If we don't know, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to ask.
People respect that, right? Like when we have public meetings, I'm like that because I want the public to understand that, like the board members or it could be them too. I mean, we're just public servants, so it's okay for all of us, or we need to be in dialogue. Actually, that's what I'm trying to say. And out of dialogue, then we come with creative solutions where all stakeholders have a say.
I've talked to a lot of Latinas through Latina Appointments Collaborative and, just out at Hope events and conferences. And a lot of them believe that to be a public servant, to be on a board and a commission, they have to be expert. How can we shift the narrative that, it's not just for folks that meet these certain criteria?
Well, it goes back to thinking, when I first applied to the osteopathic medical board, I didn't actually apply to the board. I applied to be appointed, to be considered for an appointment.
And then a general application.
Right. But they do ask you, check mark your interest. So in 2010, 2012, or 2012 when I got appointed, but when I submitted my application, I was really into health and wellness because I was looking at what's going on with the opiate epidemic. And I was starting to really pay attention to the growth of the Latino market and all the chronic diseases that were coming our way for many different reasons. So when I checked that box, I said, I want to, be considered for something in health.
Yeah, okay.
And out of that, they said, well, there's this opportunity for the osteopathic medical board. And this time around, it was the same structure. Where do you see fitting in? And I checked the health. So I think for Latinas, I think just be open, have a general sense of what is actually interesting to you. Because out of that, then, you're going to find something where you're going to be able to nourish that side of yourself that you're looking more information towards or more fulfillment. So I would say just have a broad sense of what you want and then be able to focus once opportunity arises.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this earlier. It's about passion, right? What are you passionate about? What are you willing to learn more about? What are you willing to ask more questions about?
Yeah, and also bring yourself to the table. Like, who do you represent? And why is it important that you're there representing those people behind you?
Yeah. And then, speaking of that, you're a Latina. And as a Latina, why do you think it's important for other Latinas to step into these roles, to be in boards and commissions?
Well, I think, given the demographic, we need more people at the table with the voice that has the best intention for our community, but also that is able to learn and put themselves at a position where they're able to make change. So we need bold leaders to take action. Being at a board and being quiet and timid will get you some recognition on your LinkedIn. But I think right now we're at a point where Latinas have to understand that we need a voice that's going to be able to craft the future for the next generations. And it really starts with every single conversation where we're not at, because that's where it matters the most. If we're not there, then we have no voice. But if we're there, then we have a chance.
Yeah, and for us here, I hope we do. If we could get an Latina appointment to every board and commission, we absolutely would. I think you bring up a great point that it's not enough to just be sitting in the seat. You have to bring yourself, bring those questions, bring those concerns forward. Put yourself, like, if I'm a consumer, how am I feeling? And you are a consumer.
I am a
A lot of
consumer.
these boards, you are a consumer.
And I think of people like you or my mom or the neighbor.
Yeah. And it's special. I see that a lot with the women I talk to. They're like, oh, I don't know. Like, am I the right person? Yes, you are. And if you're here in California, you're a Californian. You have that perspective. You have that lens, wherever region you may come from, whatever your background is, it's much needed.
Yeah, and I think the state will benefit. I think this is a win-win for everybody. I think we're at a point in society or history, humankind, where, diversity is a superpower as well. And I think, what we bring back to our communities is people like us sitting at the table that learn the system. Like, we need to also have a succession plan. Like, who are the leaders that will continue doing the work, and who really understand how these systems were built and how they need to continue to operate. So there's also, I think, for me, like a respect, I think, for being Latina, of how knowledge is passed down through generations. So, when you go to these when you sit on these boards, I was 27. I was one of the youngest when I first joined the Osteopathic Medical Board, and the average age is usually 40, 50, 60s, sometimes 50 and higher. So what I'm trying to say is the faster we learn the systems, the more we can adapt with them, and the more we can bring positive change to adjust them to fit the needs of our communities.
Yeah.
Because things get stagnant and society is changing, so we have to adapt, but we need to not be disruptive. We have to be innovative, and we have to be intentional. And that comes from having an intentional voice to do good for the entire state of California.
Yes.
And then breaking it down to, okay, who needs what, where, and why.
Yeah, that's true. I love that. I love that you mentioned it. That pipeline building. You're right. It's not just me. It's the next Latina after me. It's your sisters, it's your nieces, the next generation. So I love that forward thinking. And I think, you definitely are embracing that, being here with us today and talking and sharing your story and your journey. And so I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate, Claudia. You have so much great experience, and hearing it back from you, I think, just solidifies that. We do need to make more spaces for ourselves to be on these boards and commissions.
Yeah, and make it fun. I think it's also about network building. Put yourself in places where you're going to learn from other people that are very different from you. And that's beautiful, because that also adds to whom you bring to the table the next time, which is also very dynamic for Latinas. We have to be able to be a mold that's constantly expanding, like I said, to meet the demands of the changing society. So we have to be in places where we're not normally at in order for us to do that.
Well, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you. And I just know you're going to continue doing amazing things.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you too, Fernanda. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.